let's start. So we are going to talk about a neuroscience-informed psychoeducation for recovery that we call NIPE, and we have a general name for that we call brain healing first aid. First of all, I need to thank my colleagues, collaborators, those who basically made this possible for us to have this package. Dr. Martin Paulos, Dr. Robin Operly, Dr. Rezapur, Brad Collins, and Mohsen is our graphic designer, and Naeem is our cartoonist. So you will see many cartoons today that are basically designed by Naeem. Do you have anybody in your family or those who are kind of around you that have diabetes? You know that when you have a person around you, or if you have kind of this problem, being diagnosed with diabetes, when you want to be successful in the process of recovery or in the process of well maintaining your health, you need to provide a specific education for those who are suffering from diabetes. So it is not just about providing them with specific medication or providing them with insulin. It's not just about the medical interventions that we are providing. We need to train them about how the process of recovery in diabetes would be happening. Without those education, it would be really complex for them to have a really well medical situation with diabetes. And we know that diabetes is a kind of basically an endocrine disease, but when we talk about the details, there are many details around diabetes that people need to know to be able to be successful, to maintain their health. Right now, there are specific training courses, training packages for educating patients, those who are suffering from diabetes, or even their families, how their basically parents or their spouses or their kids are supposed to basically help them in the process of being able to maintain their health in a really good shape. And even there are specific educational curriculums. Even there are specific job titles in different institutes that people are just supposed to provide these educations to those who are who are suffering from diabetes. And it's a really kind of sort of well defined schedule. Even they have things like diabetes educators. It has a specific curriculum. They receive certification. They are providing that specific service for people. And it is true for many other basically medical disorders, including things like multiple sclerosis as a brain disease. So for MS, we provide really good amount of education about the complications that MS would make in their daily life and how they can deal with those complications. And there are specific websites or resources like Very Well that provides a good idea for patients and their family how they are supposed to deal with those, let's say, cognitive deficits and how they might be able to recover from those, or what are the specific complications that they need to deal with them and they are not going to recover very well, so they need to know how to compensate and learn specific strategies to compensate for those deficits that they will have with themselves for their entire life. And even more kind of details how to kind of use really simple cartoons to educate them to use those strategies in their life to have a better quality of life in the process of recovery. Okay? But the question is about addiction. Addiction as a brain disease. And when we talk about addiction, there are many specific complications around drug addiction. We talk about people who might have paranoia or delusions or hallucinations. They might be suffering from anhedonia, depression. They might be suffering from learning difficulties, lack of attention. They might be suffering from problems in their social interactions and many other problems that they might be facing. So we know that education would be an important part of recovery, okay? And addiction as a brain disease. But the question is how much the education that we are providing right now with the person who is suffering from drug addiction is neuroscience informed, or how much information that we are providing that is really related to the brain and what we know about brain. We tell them that addiction is a brain disease, but what else? Are we providing any other information that give them an idea about, okay, if addiction is a brain disease, how this disease is going to recover. What are the deficits I'm suffering as a patient who has a kind of a brain disease? What are the complications that are happening inside my brain, and how I might be able to deal with those deficits in my brain? In reality, right now, we do not have any neuroscience-informed education for those who are suffering from drug addiction. We are providing with some general information that are not very much different from what we have been providing something like 50 years ago. So if we discuss about drug cues and triggers and being abstinent, those educations are really old-fashioned educations. We are not providing something new based on what we know about addiction. And there is a specific term for this is education that we are providing for them. The right term for that is what we call that psychoeducation as an intervention. And there are psychoeducational packages for other psychiatric disorders. Right now we have psychoeducation packages for depression, for anxiety, for psychosis, and those psychoeducation programs, many of them are to some extent neuroscience informed. The question is there any lack of science behind that? So is the problem about not knowing what is really happening in the process of recovery, or not knowing what is happening in the process of drug addiction for the brain? We have recently published 2 volumes on neuroscience for addiction medicine. It has something like 900 pages, 38 chapters, 120 authors, just discussing about what we know on neuroscience side that is going to be helpful for addiction medicine. So we know a lot about what is happening inside the brain in the process of drug addiction. But the problem is we are not communicating that knowledge to the public, to those who are suffering from drug addiction, to their families, and helping them to learn about those problems and then see how they might be able to deal with those problems. That is the major gap that we are facing. So we have started to develop a program that we call Neuroscience-Informed Psychoeducation for Addiction Medicine, or Neuroscience-Informed Psychoeducation for Recovery. That is something that we are right now going to present for you and see how we might be able to implement that specific program here in Richmond. That is the plan for today. One of the first steps would be having an idea about what are the problems that people from drug addiction would be facing because of their brain involvement in that specific kind of psychiatric disorder. And as you can imagine, there are many different things that you might think about that people would be suffering as a person who is suffering from drug addiction. People have tried to develop different models discussing about what are the cognitive functions that are involved in the process of drug addiction and in the process of recovery. They seem a little bit complex right now. I'm not going to expect you to learn whatever I have in this slide in just 1 minute and then take an exam from you about different domains, okay? But just giving you an idea, there are specific kind of, let's say, schools or the specific kind of models. We have a NIDA phenotyping battery. We have an updated NIDA phenotyping battery. We have another model, it's called ANA model. And Jasmine is one of the experts in the field, so she can give you a really kind of more details about kind of different projects that they are doing based on these models. But just giving you a, let's say, a more simplified view that we are going to use in the package that we are going to introduce today, okay? So what are the main cognitive domains that are involved? Let's just start from the first one, which is called negative valence. And negative valence is about how do we feel bad? How do we feel depressed? How do we feel really not in the right way, okay? So that is a simple one, the negative valence. The other domain would be positive valence. How do we feel good? How do we feel that we are happy? How do we enjoy from different things? How we receive rewards from others around us or from what we do? So we have negative valence, positive valence. So we are going to learn about that together step by step. So negative valence, positive valence, and then control. How we can control when we have a negative feeling, or how we control when we have too much positive feeling that might make a problem for us. Okay? So these three main domains would be the main course. Okay? Positive feeling, negative feeling, how we control that. Okay? So these are going to be the main course. And we are going to discuss about how these main domains would be affected in drug addiction and how they might be able to help themselves to control these major domains in the process of recovery. Okay? So control, positive valence, negative valence. Okay? Seems reasonable? Okay? Okay, you got that. Okay, let's go to the next one. The other domain I'm interested to add would be a domain that we call introception. What is introception? What is this? Introception.
Looking inward.
Looking inward. Good. So you know what perception means. Perception is about periphery. But when we talk about introception, it's about how do we know about what is happening inside us. And for being informed about what is happening inside us, we need to have a sort of brain-body connection. So when we talk about what is happening inside the brain, we know that there are highways between what is happening inside the brain and what is happening inside our body, and how our brain would basically communicate with our body. And that's a really important part of what we call the interaction between the negative valence, positive valence, and control. You need to have a really great idea about what is happening inside your body if you want to have a control. And these items are really highly connected together with the concept of introception, having an understanding about what is happening inside me, what are the feelings that I'm experiencing right now, with the positive valence or negative valence. So that is another domain that's going to be important. The other domain would be attention. And we can have attention toward positive things and attention toward negative things. And I will discuss about that these types of attention might be different from each other. How to see those things that are positive around us, how we see things that are negative around us. Okay? Then we will discuss about memory. We have lots of memories about positive things, lots of memories about negative things that are happening in our life. And then we have saliency processing. Why things are important. Why should we have a positive feeling from a specific event? Why should have a negative feeling from a specific event? How we appraise what is happening around us. Okay? So attention, memory, saliency processing, these things are going to be super important on how we feel positive. Attention, memory, saliency processing is going to be really important on how we feel negative things. And these things would be related to the control as well. So we are extending the model. So I'm going to expand that, be kind of ready for the expansion. For control, one really important cognitive function for the control domain would be working memory. I'm going to discuss how working memory is going to be important for cognitive control. Then flexibility is going to be another really important domain. And inhibition. So working memory, flexibility, inhibition for control. Okay? So if we want to train control, we need to train working memory. We need to train flexibility. We need to train inhibition. And with these domains, we are able to have the control. Okay? So the next domain would be what we called metacognition. And what is metacognition? Cognition about cognition. Understanding what is happening inside my brain when I have a negative feeling and I'm able to control that negative feeling. How do I control being exposed to a really catastrophe and then being able to survive that and control the situation? What is happening inside my brain that I'm able to be resilient and be in control of a catastrophe in my life? And metacognition is an understanding about what is happening inside my brain right now. Or even when I feel that I'm not in control, I have a good understanding about, okay, why I'm not in control. What are the things that are happening in my brain? What are the cognitive processes that are involved inside my brain that do not let me to be in control? So cognition is called metacognition. And then when we have the metacognition about ourselves, we call that insight. Okay? So when we have metacognition about self, it would be insight. And then when we have metacognition about others, that would be social cognition. When I know that what is happening in your brain when you are seeing me, okay, are you enjoying about what I'm talking about, or you are feeling, okay, what are the things that he's talking about, okay? This is called metacognition on others. So now I'm understanding what are the cognitive processing happening in Emma's head right now, okay? And what she is thinking about, what I'm discussing about, okay? So if I understand what is happening in her mind right now, then I would be able to arrange my interaction with her in the next steps, okay? And that is why we call that social cognition. So those who have a really good social interaction with others, they have the ability to be able to understand what is happening in the minds of others. And if they have a metacognition about what is happening in others' mind, then they would be able to interact with others in the right way. So that is the reason that we call that metacognition. Okay? The last domain that is going to be also important is about arousal. And arousal and sleep is about the level of vigilance that you have from what is happening inside the system. Can you see what is happening inside well or not? So are you getting drowsy? Are you getting sleepy? And you do not have very much access to what is happening inside your brain, or you are completely vigilant and you can see what is happening inside. Okay, so we call that arousal. In NIPE, we are covering those domains. Let me just go back. The other last domain that I forgot to mention is what we call the motor function. And motor function is about, we are doing all these processes, and at the end of the day, we do a motor action. And that will be the output of all these processes together. Okay? So how we address these domains in the package that we are going to learn about today in NIPE. We have covered 10 major domains. We covered negative saliency, positive saliency, control, interoception, attention, memory, insight, social cognition, arousal, and motor. Okay? And some of other kind of smaller domains are covered under the major domains. Okay? So we try to cover the entire cognitive functions that are important in the process of addiction. I'm going to tell you how they are going to be important in the process of addiction. And we covered them in 10 major domains. Okay? How? This is how we covered them. So, as you can see here, we covered attention, memory, control, movement, brain-body connection. So we do not talk about interoception, which seems complex. Brain-body connection, arousal and sleep, feeling bad. We are not talking about negative valence, positive valence, but feeling bad, feeling good, social cognition, and awareness. Okay? So we covered all these domains in the package. And we are going to see the first one, which is about attention. So please open your workbooks. We are in the part 1, page 10. Sarah, would you read the text in attention?
I often experience that environmental triggers can produce an inability in me to control my desire to use drug preference, even when I do not want to use, because using is all I can think about. When this happens, I have very little ability to shift my focus to anything else. Even carrying on a conversation with someone is very difficult, when I am locked onto thinking about using. Multitasking of any kind is nearly impossible when I am pulled into thinking about drug use when driven by environmental cues.
Okay. consider yourself as a drug user and think about other examples in your life that might be affected by lack of attention or bias in attention, and write them down in the few lines that you have on the next page. I'm going to ask you to read those kind of personal experiences, sort of.
Could you explain that for the layman in the room?
Of course. That is what we are going to start to discuss. So if it seems complex to you, let's go to the few other questions that we have. Sarah, would you read other questions that we have and just use your marker and tell us whether you have experienced that you have experienced those before or not? Go ahead.
Have you ever found it difficult to concentrate on activities like reading books or listening to ongoing conversations?
Yes or no? Use your marker and say yes or no.
Okay, got it.
Okay, yes or no. The next one.
Found it impossible to focus on a task if a TV is on in the background or other people are talking around you?
Yes or no? Go ahead.
Found it confusing when you tried to do two things at the same time. For example, washing the dishes and talking on the phone.
The next one.
Found it very difficult to stay focused more than 20 minutes on one task. For example, attending a lecture.
Okay, we are right now around 20 minutes, so you can see that.
And we're still awake.
Okay, that is good. The next one.
Found it very hard to react quickly if something happens unexpectedly. For example, a fast-moving car coming straight at you.
Okay, now go back and provide some personal experiences that would be a representation of lack of attention in your daily life. So, as Emma beautifully mentioned, it's really important for when you are talking with lay people or those who are basically in the lower educational level in the community that are suffering from substance use, even when you are talking to introduce the idea of what attention means in your life and how do you perceive about attention and how attention and lack of attention would affect your life, it's really important to provide with simple examples. And we are going to work on kind of more details about that. So one of the things that I really enjoyed over the time is just seeing that how our patients are able to talk in the terms that we are using. So they are talking about, okay, I have a lack of attention, so that's the reason that I'm doing something like this. I have a kind of a problem with memory, so that's the reason that I cannot do this. So being able to understand why they are not able to do these jobs, why are not able to control their craving. So if they are not able to control their craving, is it because they have really strong memories? Is it because they are not able to control their attention? So we will discuss. And at the end of the course, I can see that at least many of them have an idea about, okay, what is happening inside their brain when they are not able to control their craving? Or what are the strategies that they might be able to use to control their craving based on the education that we are providing, okay? So
the goal here is more individualized treatment protocol.
I really like the term of individualized, because one of the really good feedbacks I received from one of the workshops that we had after kind of the implementation of what we had, I received the feedback that when we are using the material, we are giving people a level of control that they can even individualize the trainings that we are providing for them based on what they perceive about themselves. So we give them a level of autonomy or level of authority in what is happening inside the brain and how they might be able to use those individualized experiences or their individualized understanding about what is happening inside their brain to deal with the problems that they have in their life. And that is a really interesting experience, because in most of the kind of addiction therapies, we just provide them with, okay, you are supposed to do this, and you are supposed to do that, and you are supposed to control you are supposed to kind of use this strategy. So we are not providing with a specific explanation about what is happening. And then we are not discussing about, okay, what is your personal situation, because you can easily see, even in a group of something like 12 people, that there are people who are suffering from significant amount of attention deficit, and there are people who are really good in their attention control. And you can see that people are quite different. And even when we will discuss about that, we will have some exercises that we are going to do together. So you can see that people are really good in doing some of those exercises, and there are people who are not. And even after a few sessions, they would realize that they are different, and how they might be able to address those personal differences to find specific individualized things that are going to work for them. And we are not going to tell them what you are going to do. We are just going to tell them what is happening inside your brain, and then they need to tailor what we have for themselves. That is one thing that I'm happy about what we are doing, because we give them a level of autonomy to be able to use the education that we have to tailor something for themselves. Okay, so we start with these sort of just scenarios about personal difficulties with specific cognitive deficits. So let's go and see what Mandy has written for that.
I have a really hard time paying attention to anything if there's excess noise, just like the people walking by. That was distracting to me. So I find that difficult in day to day. Okay, one. What else? Even like driving, listening to music, depending on what I'm doing. If there's pedestrians walking by, that's distracting. I get distracted really easily. The pedestrians are distracting for your music, or the music is distracting for your kind of being attentive about the pedestrians that you are supposed not to hit? Good. Jackie, what do you?
When I am really hungry for lunch, it is really difficult for me to engage in a conversation with somebody that is going to have me in a good headspace.
Okay.
It's distracting. It's a craving for lunch. My hunger is distracting, and I'm not able to pay attention sometimes to what somebody's telling me.
Okay, good.
Not clinical way. I may try to say.
Okay, Andra.
I find that if I'm stressed or kind of overwhelmed, it's hard for me to move forward with tasks or to focus on conversations.
Good. What else that you like to share? Anybody else who would be interested to share any specific personal experience? Oh.
I have trouble concentrating on a task when there's a lot of pinging and notifications, like emails open, so I usually have to cut on my do not disturb. If there's a lot of noise and I've got something I want to do, I can really focus in on it. But there's that sort of reward system, when that's something really good, and I have to cut that off because I'm always attracted to that reward system piece of it.
Okay. Good. Please.
One thing that I want to share is that dear Moss, it's very similar in a way that get distracted and everything. I don't get that in work relationship, so I can do multitasking, airplane flying by, whatever. I can do it, but I cannot do it with my children. I found that at home there's a music, I'm cooking, and kids are asking me something. I cannot listen to those. I found that one very interesting. When I'm in outside workplace conference, I do perfectly well all those, but not at home.
That is important message. First, how context is going to be important. In different contexts, it seems that you are in totally different sort of gear. I'm not sure if you have, right now most of the cars have basically automatic gears. But those who have an experience of using the manual gears, they know that when you put the car in different gears, they have totally different characteristics. So it's a totally different car. And it seems that we have different gears in the brain. When we are in some sort of executive gear, it has specific functions that is, you can do multitasking, you can do many things. But when you go to another gear, let's say when you are in home, and you are feeling a little bit kind of laid back, and you are in a kind of more convenient place, and you go to a sort of default mode gear, then it seems that you are not able to do multitasking. But meanwhile, you are able to do things that you are not able to do when you are doing multitasking. So it seems that your brain is in another gear, is basically in another state. And I can talk about something like 1 hour about how we can shift gears in the brain and how many gears that we have in the brain. It seems that at least we have 2 major gears that is called kind of executive control gear and default mode gear. And they are totally different in terms of what are the cognitive processes that are happening in the first one and what are the cognitive kind of processes that are happening in the second, and how we can basically take advantage of shifting from one gear to the other to use our brain in the best possible way. So I can kind of discuss about that for a long time. Just kind of one other example that might be interesting is we know that when people are in the executive mode, they are not very much creative. And when they are in the other mode, that they are supposed to do nothing, they would get creative.
It leaves room for creation.
It's not just about leaving room for creation. It seems that there are cognitive processing that are happening when you are supposed to do nothing that are really important for creation, for being creative. And that's the reason that the aha moment would be happening when you are in the shower. When you are in the bathtub. You solve many problems when you are in the under showers. You just find solutions for things when you are supposed to not to do anything. Or I get really creative when I'm in the kind of flights, for long flights, because I'm in the seat, I cannot do anything else. And that's the time that I start to just be creative, and I always need to have a pen with myself when I'm sitting in the flight, because I have lots of ideas. And it's not just about being creative. You start to recall memories that are personal that you forgot before. You start to realize, oh, I had to pay this amount of money to somebody. I had to do something. So these are specific kind of moments that you start to remember things that you forgot before. And that's how that gear works. And that is happening for those who are doing prayers. They know where are they in the church, where are they in the synagogue, when they are in the mosque, and they are supposed to do nothing. So they are going to be attentive to that. But they start to remember those things and the other things. And that's the reason that even I had kind of clients that have been really feeling guilty about that, because they have been, when we are supposed to speak with God and being really kind of at that moment, we just start to feel things that we are not supposed to feel. And the other thing that might be interesting, you just get more aware about what is happening in your body as well. So you might start to feel that, okay, it seems that kind of my toe is itching right now. These are specific cognitive processes that are not happening when you are in the executive mode. So when you are in a kind of in an executive meeting with other colleagues, you never feel that what is happening in your body, or the kind of the back of your toe is basically itching right now. Those feelings would not be happening. So it's really important to have a kind of a sense how these things are going to, and how these things are context dependent. So in some contexts we are in specific modes, and in the other contexts that we are in totally different mode. And these different modes would be associated with totally different cognitive processing inside our body, inside our brain. And our brain and body is just, they both process things that are happening. And I believe that it's not just about our brain and body, it's about our environment. Some of the cognitive processing that are happening in me are basically happening inside my children's brain, my students' brain, my colleagues. So there are a part of my cognitive processes. I mean, that's the kind of the understanding about that I have about cognition. So we will discuss about that probably later. But to give people a better idea about what attention means, just talking about scenarios and education is not enough. We need to get them involved. And how can we get them involved? We provide them with specific games that are engaging attention. And that is what we realize that is going to be really helpful to give them a sense about what does attention really mean. So let me ask you to go. Okay, let's do this exercise. My slides are a little bit different than what you already have, but let's go to the exercise number 2 in page 13. Okay. Let's see how you can find those 7 items on the top, and who is going to be the first one who would find them all. Okay. First of all, for these exercises, as you can see here, we usually give a specific amount of time. Let's say 5 minutes. So we are not going to give everybody enough time to solve the problem. It's really important to tell people that, okay, do you feel the specific brain muscle that is trying to solve the problem? That specific brain muscle is called focused attention. I'm not sure if you go routinely to gym and do powerlifting or those types of kind of exercises. When they want to tell you about a specific muscle, they need to give you a weight and let you do that specific movement and tell you, okay, that is brachioradialis. So you need to specifically put that muscle in the pressure to be able to feel that specific muscle. So if you are supposed to feel, let's say, the biceps, you need to kind of put the pressure over biceps, and then you can feel, okay, this is biceps, this is triceps, okay, this is brachioradialis, this is, so, I mean, without that specific pressure, you cannot feel that muscle. That is exactly what we do to let people understand what attention means. We give them a specific exercise, we put that specific function in the pressure, and then we'll tell them, okay, this is focused attention. Do you feel that? That is specific feeling that you have. This is specifically your focused attention function. Okay? This is how we use games, not to basically empower those functions, because in few sessions it's not possible. But at least we give them, okay, you have a biceps muscle, you have a triceps muscle. We are not going to kind of improve the function of biceps muscle with just one kind of session of showing that you can use these dumbbells to just increase the strength in the muscle. But we can at least let them know that what are the muscles that you have in your body. And that is the first step. To give them an idea, okay, there are different muscles in your body. And if you can use them in the right way, then you can deal with the many problems that you have in your life. So we use the exercises specifically for that.
So this step is awareness.
Exactly. So we are using exercises to improve awareness. So we use exercises to increase metacognition. That's the reason that we are using games. But there is a downside for games. You can see in the groups that there would be patients that would be able to do the exercises really fast. And there are people who are far behind the others. And that might get really discouraging for those who are behind others. So you need to be really careful not to incentivize being the first body who has done the exercise and technically punish others. Because when you incentivize, you just say that, okay, you did the best, you have been the first body. So it's really important to get sure that how you are giving feedback to people. And how to give them an idea, okay, it's not just about who is going to be the first, it's just about feeling the pressure and understanding what is happening inside your brain. So we are not going to test you, it's not just test, it's not just a score, we are just going to give you a sense about what is happening in your brain and what are the variations that people might have in terms of different functions. And it's important to address that people are very different, as we have different muscles. Even within this class, we have people with different sizes of biceps muscle. But it's not just about the size. It's about how we know or how we can use a specific muscle in the best possible way. So it's really important to say that, okay, if in the class you have different muscle sizes in the class, somebody would not feel bad that they have a smaller muscle. Because it's not just about the size, it's about how you use it. And just not about why we are different. It's important for us to know that we are different. And we need to address these differences and see how we can find our best place in the world. Because
A personal best.
exactly, and that is going to be really important to get sure that these games are going to be fun and they are not going to just be competition for getting more scores and be discouraging for a few others. So it's really important to have, because you realize that if you give negative feedbacks to a few people, they would not come for the second session. So the major point is how you can make those games a fun experience to have more people in the next session. So if we can do the first session in a way that would be fun and joyful, they would come back again for the second session. If they do not come back for the second session, you failed. So the question is how you can make it so fun in a way that people would come for the second session. And using the games in the right way, you can kind of make a sort of kind of a level of competition across others, but not that to the level that people would get discouraged about their deficits among others. So it's going to be really critically important. And we provide, that is what we are going to provide for Jasmine, with slides that have basically the keys for these games. We have not provided the keys inside the booklet, because as you can imagine, people would just go inside and see. So we have a slide that have keys as well. So that's something that Nikki, we need to kind of send for Jasmine. For each session, we have a series of slides that would have games and the keys in the slide. Especially if you are running the class in a place that you have a screen, or you have something like a, let's say, video projector, then you can basically show these specific addition to that. And we have few other additional slides that if you have time, you can talk about them. For example, we have few slides about attention. What does attention mean? And we usually use the analogy of a spotlight on a scene. And attention is how we basically focus that specific spotlight to provide enough light to see an object on the scene. Okay? And then if we focus that and sustain that for a long period of time in one specific spot, that is called concentration. So this is how we define concentration. Concentration is having a focused attention for a period of time. So if you can sustain focused attention, then you have concentration. Please.
Quick question about the target population. Could you possibly share with us the target population in terms of the age groups, target population in terms of the illness career, whether this program is targeted more early recovery, markers, that the type of drugs matter?
Yes. We have started to develop this program for basically substance users, whether they are alcohol users or meth users or opioid users. And we are recruiting people from the adult population from age of 18 to 64. That is the kind of the range that we are recruiting. But after running the classes for a while, we receive lots of feedbacks from our clients that I wish I could have these materials for my kids who are in the high school. Because what you are providing us in the class are basically things that I wish I learned when I was in the high school. Because they're about control, regulation, monitoring, things that we need in our daily life. So we started to develop some other programs. I will discuss about those other programs that we developed for younger people and also for not only for substance users, but also with the idea of prevention or using metacognition for basically having a better life. Because I think that having metacognition is something that each of us would need that to perform well in such a complex world right now. So other than that, we will have many problems. Okay, so this specific exercise was about focused attention. Let's go to the other exercise. Let's do exercise number 3. And you're supposed not to use any pen. You're supposed to just count them with your eyes. So put pens aside. Jackie, would you would you read that loud? The instruction.
Consider the different lines of shapes below.
Yeah, just started. Okay, how many? 7, 8, 4.
Oh no, 24. I went
7.
I went backwards.
Oh, so just in the row. They are supposed to be in the row.
Okay.
24. Okay. Let's go to the next one. Jackie, would you read the instruction for the next one? Okay, keep your pens in your hands. Do not start. Keep your pens in your hands. Be ready. See the few examples that we have. Do not start. Okay? Are you ready to start? Let's go. Let's see who is going to do it first. Have you felt the pressure? Have you felt the pressure on your attention muscle? Do you agree that the type of attention muscle that is involved in this game is different with the one that was involved in the first one? So you can see from the first game to the second one to the third one, you have sort of different types of attention that are involved. So it is not just about one type of attention. The first one was more focused attention. So we were supposed to be just focused to one place. In the second one, you were shifting your attention in different places. So you were supposed to just simply go. But in the third one, you were supposed to shift between. So you had a sort of division or kind of divided attention. You had to pay attention to two different instructions and do the exercise. So you can see that we have different types of attention. So when we talk about this specific spotlight, we can focus the spotlight. We can change the place of the spotlight. Or sometimes we can even divide the spotlight into two spotlights and see two different things. So we have focused attention, flexible attention, and divided attention. So we can have different types of attention. So we can use this specific spotlight in different ways. And just to have a sense about, we have this ability to be able to use this spotlight to bring information to the brain. So this is a really basic kind of introduction to the concept of attention and how attention might be important. Then we will go to the next level. The next level is about how can we have specific exercises that are not too abstract, that are doable in daily life. So things that are more towards our daily life. So let's go to the next pages. And go to page 16. Benny, would you read that?
Attention. So do word exercises. Practice reverse spelling during daily conversation. Spell words you hear backward in your mind. Example, apple could be alpha in your brain language. Keep going.
Yes, please.
Be your present moment attention coach. You can practice controlling your attention and lessen the brain's tendency to wander during the important task. Intentional, gentle, and internal messages, such as focus on the task at hand, or come back to the present moment, can become a habit to bring you back into focus. Lastly, train your brain to be flexible. Try to shift between two or more brain tasks as a daily exercise. Example, practice a Sudoku puzzle for 10 minutes, and then shift to solving a crossword for 10 minutes, and then return to the Sudoku again.
Okay, so these are, you can see the type of the game that we are talking about is a little bit different with the kind of the ones that we did together. They are more towards what you can do in your daily life. So we try to give people a sense about how these things are related to their daily life. That is the level that we get to this book. In a more extensive version that we have that has 16 sessions, we go to another level, the third level, that we bring specific examples in their recovery process, how they can do attention training while they are exposed to drug-related cues, while they are in a situation that they are being offered a specific kind of potential to use drugs, how they can use those skills on that situation. So we go from really simple abstract exposure to the attention training to the level that they can do those things in their daily life, to the level that they can use that in the process of recovery. So we try to see how we can bring these specific training exercises in a way that people can use them in their daily life. Okay? And we have done that for all those 10 domains that we discussed today. So we have that for attention, memory, decision control, movement, brain-body connection, arousal, feeling. So that is the structure of the training that we are providing. Talking about how your attention is affected by drug use and what are the things that you might be able to do, and then going to the other domains as well. That is the general structure of the package. Meanwhile, we provide them with some other more general advices in the process of recovery, how you can help your brain in the process of recovery, how you can basically provide your brain the specific potentials or opportunities to recover, and how you can foster the process of recovery. And that is another dimension that we add to the packages that we have.